Are you struggling with roadblocks as a woman in the challenging and constantly changing world of corporate America? If you feel stuck in your career, you may be holding yourself back and may not even realize it. Prepare to be enlightened by the meaningful discussions here at the No Woman Left Behind podcast. Each week, gather the insight you need to break down those walls of limiting beliefs. Unleash your full potential and unlock the leader within. Listen to raw conversations with corporate women as they share inspiring stories with the purpose of obtaining their dream career and living a truly fulfilling life. Here's your host, Rosie Zilinskas.
Hey everyone, welcome to No Woman Left Behind. I'm Rosie Zilinskas. Today we're going to be talking to Brittany McLaughlin about the challenges of being taken seriously at work due to her age and how she navigates these challenges by making connections with people. Brittany graduated from the University of New Hampshire in 2017. She started her career in the insurance industry as a sales executive for the Hartford in Boston, Massachusetts. Within 5 years, Brittany has completed a training program, was assigned a New England territory, and finished 2021 as a top sales representative. Despite the challenges of being a young female in the industry, Brittany has been able to accomplish these goals with hard work and perseverance. Brittany continues to learn, take on challenges, and strives to grow in her career every day. You will also hear from Brittany about the difficulties of being a female in the insurance industry and how she has been able to navigate these difficulties. Thank you, Brittany, for being here. I'm so excited for you to be on the No Woman Left Behind podcast. And Brittany, I'm so excited to talk to you because you are obviously a millennial. And I'm just going to start straight away. You know that my mission is to eradicate the gender gap, and I'm doing it through women's career development. As a millennial, Brittany, what have you experienced as some of the challenges just from the time that you graduated, because it hasn't been too long ago, to where you are today? So let's start there.
First off, thank you, Rosie, for having me. I'm excited to be here. As you mentioned, yes, I am a millennial. Didn't graduate too long ago, about 5 years ago. First off, I guess one of the main challenges is one, age gap within the industry. So that is a big one. I'm starting off in a career where it's mostly male, but those male are probably average age 50. So that is a challenge of getting that credibility as well. Being more compared to as a child. So that it was definitely a struggle that I dealt with when I first started kind of gaining that credibility as well. Having to maybe even appear older than I am as well. So kind of those are more of the challenges that I'm facing. I still do face it every day, meeting someone new. Going into a restaurant meeting with my clients or brokers here and there, they don't expect sometimes it might sound older on the phone as well. So that is definitely a challenge, being a millennial in the industry that I am today.
And actually, I was reading, there was a poll that I read that 36% of the younger millennials, because now millennials are kind of split with the older millennials and the younger millennials. Mm-hmm. So 36% of millennials are experiencing ageism at work. And I think for the first time in the history of the world, we have baby boomers all the way down to those Gen Zers or whatever they're being called nowadays, like the really newbie people. But I think ageism is actually going to be one of the biggest challenges that millennials deal with. And like you said, you've been in the workforce for 5 years and you're still dealing with it. So let's talk a little bit about ageism at work first, and then meaning like inside your office with your coworkers. And then we can transition and talking a little bit about it with external clients. Yep. When you are at work and someone says something to you about your age, how do you respond? What do you say? Or do you even address it?
Usually with my company, it hasn't been that much of a challenge given the age, because I think they've a lot of companies have gone into the training for right out of college, which has been a huge step. But some companies have not as well. I think even just deciding on a career for a company to give someone with right out of college that opportunity is great. But also when you say, I don't ever really get the question of the age, they put it as in the experience you have. So it's the rewording of that question. So at first, when I first started, I kind of was like, I don't know if I should say my opinion of it. I don't really have the experience that they're asking for or that they know of as well. So that definitely was a challenge of the years of experience that people do have, just being internally as well. Are they going to take me as seriously? Are they going to listen to me? So first starting, yes, that's a challenge of your experience or age. Another way to put it.
Yes. And I would encourage all of the listeners out there that whenever you have an opinion, don't hold yourself back from giving that opinion, because that's one of the ways that people, whether they realize it or not, they're intimidating you a little bit. And if you have an opinion, you should feel confident to express your opinion and, whatever they say, but that's one of the ways of how we get socialized as women to not speak up and not say what we think. So do you have any examples of when you, especially more recently, now that you've had a little bit more experience, how have you been able to overcome that by speaking up?
Yeah, I mean, I do internal as well as external sales. So internally, I'm not afraid to use my voice. My manager has been very supportive of wanting me to speak up. And once you do speak up, that's when you do get noticed. So I've learned the times that I haven't spoken up, that I just kind of sit there and nothing really gets done. And am I happy? Yeah, I might be happy, but I'm not going anywhere in my career. So speaking up internally is a huge thing that I've learned, and not to be afraid. And these people are here to work with you. They wouldn't have hired you if you weren't going to put anything into what they have to offer as well. When it comes to externally, I kind of have to prove myself, have to say, well, I may be younger, but I'm willing to work harder. I have to prove to them. I might be doing a little bit cleaning up for them before I do get that first sale. I have to kind of convince them, and then also stay on top of them. Hey, Brittany's still here. I'm not going anywhere. And it's that extra hard work that you have to put in the industry, one being a female and then being younger as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to come back to your manager in just a little bit. So when it comes to those external clients, and you said that a lot of external clients are much older than you, sometimes they may say something to you like, and this is from our prior conversation, oh, you remind me of my daughter or my granddaughter or whatever. So give me some techniques or some ways that you have dealt with those comments, because obviously you're not going to, be rude or whatever, especially with clients. So what are some things that you actually have used that have worked for you in the past?
Well, I kind of connect with them. So I ask the questions more. If they mention their daughter, granddaughter, I'm like, oh, how old are they? Where do they go to school? And then there's usually sometimes a mutual connection. What do they do on a daily basis as well? Some might know it within the area. So then we kind of get into connecting of where they're from a little bit, kind of and then it turns into like where they grew up as well, what they were doing back when they were my age. Everyone has to start somewhere. And sometimes those, the older generations forget that they had to start where I was too. But once you kind of remind them of, oh, yeah, where did you start? How did you get into the industry? It kind of just goes back and relates to them. So I kind of just more question it and try to find topics of interest for them, because we do have other interests as well.
Right. Well, I think that's a really smart way. Instead of saying, something like, well, I have enough experience, or, I'm very knowledgeable, or anything like that. I like the way you handle it. I've also known that people sometimes use humor. They will, kind of joke about, oh, I'm, whatever, I'm old enough, or, I stay out of the sun, for example. I'm much older than you think I am. So they don't necessarily address their age, but they're kind of directing the question away from their age. So that's one way to do it. And then another way is kind of like you, where if they say something about your age, you can always say, oh, well, I am more directing to like current events, sort of something like that, where you're just like pulling away from that particular comment that they have. So I think what you do is actually really smart, to try to connect with them so that your age is not really apparent. And by the way, I don't know if you do or if you don't, but never say your age, because
I don't.
Okay, good. Because when you say your age, you lose credibility. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to fish for. They're trying to fish for, well, can I do business with this person or not? Because they're, in their minds, and I know I've heard a lot of people say, oh, they're just babies. And they may not necessarily mean to be derogatory, but to your point, it feels like they're calling out your inexperience, but you have to start somewhere, as you said. So it's really important to get your credibility back without giving away any of your power. So I think that's really important. So great. I think you're handling it well, and you're probably going to get that question or that comment for a long time. So you're going to have a lot of experience with that question, right?
I hope by the age of 50, it stays that way too. Still
yeah,
looking.
How about it? How about it? Okay, so you had said something a little while ago about you getting a lot of support from your manager, and that the people that hired you obviously want you there. And I think that's really important. So tell me a little bit more about how you have gotten support from your manager specifically.
Yeah, so I'm currently in my role. There's 7 of us. I'm the only girl as well. So my manager has developed mentorship internally for me. Hey, can you reach out to Brittany? She might just have questions on what to wear to a meeting. So he is always there looking out for me. He doesn't mean to do it intentionally, but he does it with a purpose too, because obviously it's different going to a male of, oh, what are you wearing to this meeting? And then to a female as well. Also certain topics, I mean, I'm not planning to have a baby yet, but when it comes to that time, having a connection there of maybe someone that has gone through it as well. So he has just been leading me in the right direction of who he looks up to in the organization, as well as he thinks as partners, which has been a tremendous in a career as well. And a thank you to him for doing that, because I don't think without it, I wouldn't really know the experience or not have the support that I do need, or to see people or female, for example, lead in these roles.
Okay, and so just to clarify, did he pair you up with a female mentor then?
Correct.
Okay, yes. Got it. Yes. Okay, so the female mentor that you now have, has she been in the company for a while?
She has, yep. But she actually also came over from an acquisition. So she came over from a company that we have acquired as well. He also did pair me up with another woman who was not in a sales role, so more of an operation. So different parts of the company, just to get those connections as well. But yes, he is pairing me up with other female that do have more experience as well.
And I absolutely love that. Kudos to your manager for doing that. Specifically, if you're the only female in your department, sometimes, it's a little intimidating to be the only person. And you kind of, when you are in meetings, even if all the gentlemen include you, because you're female, you naturally stand out if you're wearing a dress, or especially if you're wearing like a pretty yellow summer dress or something like that. So to that point, I just want to make sure that you realize that when you are in those meetings, you kind of need to have that executive presence of, you know, that you belong there. So
Yes.
make sure that you kind of, they say from the executive presence point, take up space in the room and lean in into the table. So all that good stuff. So I hope you're doing that. And if you're not,
I
start doing
also
it.
think, being the only female, I would probably go unnoticed if I wasn't there too, as well, just because I am a kind of an outlier.
Right, absolutely. And so let's go back to your mentor. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that your mentor is not necessarily even in the same department, because
Yeah.
your mentor doesn't have to be in the same department, right?
Mhm. Yeah, no, we talk about everything and anything.
That's good. And so I love hearing that, because again, me being in the position that I am, I love helping women. And I think I mentioned this to you in our call before. I went to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and I talk about this all the time, but the alma mater has a statue and a saying on the statue, and it says, "To the happy children of the future, those are the past and greetings." So when I think about that saying, it's those women that came before me paved the way for me. And now it's my job to pave the way for younger women like yourself. And so your mentor is doing the same thing. She's helping you, she's assisting you. And when the time comes, when another younger female comes into your team, you will be able to be there for her and assist her. So it's women helping women, right? Because that's what we're trying to do here, is eradicate the gender gap. So as far as your comfort, so I know that you're the only female.
Yep.
What is the camaraderie with the rest of your team?
Very comfortable. I have grown up I played girls ice hockey as well as softball. So certain things, being sales, you have to be competitive. So it's always like, I'm trying to beat out the boys.
I love
I
that.
want to get to the top. So I want to be competitive, but there are certain topics where they're talking about football and I'm like, I don't know. And it's funny because they'll try to be like, "Oh, did you watch the Kardashians?" I'm like, I think you're just trying to loop me in. Like, I know you're not watching it, and if you are, I will talk to it about you with it. But there has been points where I've gone to a Celtics game and it's just been all guys, and I've kind of maybe just felt a little uncomfortable because or don't have much to say because they're talking about sports or who's playing this, where I'm more just going to be there and be in the social aspect and show my presence. So those are some challenges as well with, I guess, being more of the guys. I guess I'm kind of have to be like a bro in that sense with them.
That's too funny. But there are some things that you can do, right? Like you can be up on current events, maybe look at the, I don't know, scores for the day or something like that. I'm not a sports person either. So the other day I actually asked my husband, "So who's in the Super Bowl?" he rolls his eyes and he told me, but so that just kind of brings to light that we as women, in order to stand out, we have to try a little bit harder than our male counterparts. And so being that you're in sales, you already know that you have to be competitive, that you want to get to the top, that you're competing with other males in your department, because obviously you're the only girl. But that actually gives you a lot of confidence. That actually gives you a lot of opportunity to be able to stand out. And quite honestly, women are much more able to be organized and be able to prioritize. So sometimes we beat out the boys, pretty quickly, because sometimes they're just not everybody, of course, but that is an advantage. So what are some other ways that you can think of that maybe your manager is supporting you other than the mentorship?
Yeah, I mean, just on daily basis, if I need something to go to, he'll get it done for me. I'm not scared to reach out to him as well, even if it comes to a personal level or a career profession. Just someone to go to when I need to as well. I mean, every organization has issues each and every day. And he's also just a person that will get on a client call might not go the right way. And he'll just give me a call and just say, Brittany, take a second and breathe, and
Good.
it's fine. And even just calling up and saying, is this how I'm supposed to do it? Do I do it this way? What is your experience of things? So just being there has been very supportive as well for me. He also was the one that wanted to hire me based off being a female too. He realizes that in this role, it's rare too as well. So I did know that he did was there was a leverage up for hiring me because based off of my gender.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk back a little bit, go back into your history. So you obviously graduated 5 years ago. What were some of the challenges that you experienced just during college, trying to, specifically during your senior year of college or your last year, trying to get a job? What were some of the challenges that you as a millennial had in searching for a job?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone, it's where to start the experience is, and usually you don't get that and unless you know someone, a connection. My advice is honestly just apply. The first internship I had, I didn't know anyone and I applied and they ended up hiring me because I did apply and they actually wanted someone that they didn't know. So that would be one of my suggestions as well. And have the confidence too. Going out there, you might not be as experienced, but connect what you have been through. If you've done a study abroad, if you're in a sorority, if you're in an organization, tell them about those experiences as well. And also just, I think I was really nervous expressing myself professionally because we're not really used to that in college too as well. And you don't need the nicest blazer. Go to Target and get a blazer and you can show that you're very professional. So those would be my advice to the girls just starting as well. And it doesn't have to be based off of what your parents did. Look for what you did or you want to do.
Yeah, no, I love that advice, especially the Target tip, right? Because people think that you have to go to, Ann Taylor or whatever to get a suit. And you're right, Target has a lot of super cute clothes. So yeah, no, I agree with that. Now, once you actually started applying for your current job, how was that experience? How did that go for you? Obviously, you got hired, right? So
It was difficult. The role that I have now is the last one I accepted and the last offer I got. I probably did at least 10 or so interviews. And I've learned from them all is even if you don't think you're going to really want the job, go for it. It's a learning experience and it's practice as well. Also, during the interview, some recruiters do give feedback of saying, oh, hey, you didn't say this. Maybe next time you say this. So you kind of learn the overall what to expect going forward. I would say don't get discouraged because the perfect one will land. Like I said, I had a job lined up. I think it was June right after college. My current role contacted me. And I kind of went the different way and accepted another offer because I just kept waiting it out and I was like, do I really want to do it? And now I like what I do. I like my job. I've been there for 5 years. And I think if I went a different way or kind of given up, I wouldn't have be where I am today.
yeah, no, absolutely. So you said a couple of really good things. So one of them is just apply for the internship or the job. And I think a lot of times women don't apply for jobs or again, internships because they just don't think that they're qualified when the guy next door to her or, another gentleman might apply and not have, half of the skills that the females have. You have to admire men and the fact that they're almost fearless and they just apply. And we women are socialized to have that fear. And that's what we're trying to, bust out. It's just, we need to stop being afraid to be out of our comfort zone and just apply for that position. So I think that's great. The second thing that you said was networking, right? So networking is really huge. And it could be networking with your family, with your parents, with any of aunts, uncles, any of your family friends. I think when you are right out of college, I think the very first line of defense in order to get a job is go to all of your family and friends and see who knows who exactly. It's not like what you know, it's who you know. So I think that's really crucial. So did you get any help, by the way, from your parents or any family or friends as far as apply or mock interviewing or anything like that?
No, I mean, I just basically, so I'm the first one out of my family, so parents, to go to college. So first generation college. My dad's a
Got it.
firefighter. My mom works for the state. They've been at the same job for 30 years.
Wow.
So they don't even really know what I'm doing either, or what I do on a day-to-day basis. So I would use the career center at school. I would go and have them look over my resume. An organization I also went to in high school was a Boys and Girls Club. So they helped me with the college essays, as well as starting off being one of my first jobs at the age of 16. So I would use the resources as well as those mock interviews that the college does provide. And I mean, my first resume was nothing perfect. They destroyed it and wrote through it, but I just kept going back and resubmitting it. And it's not hard just to take a second to go through and sit down with them, and use those resources, because I really didn't have anyone besides maybe cousins who have jobs. But my parents didn't have to go through that when they were applying.
Got it. I can definitely relate to that because I too was a first generation and my parents didn't even know what a college credit was. So I can totally relate. But to your point, using the resources that the either high school or college or university has, that's really huge. Another thing that I have recommended to people is nowadays online, whether you have a computer or not, you can go to the public library and there's so many resources there. But the other thing is go online and just Google behavioral interview questions, and then you will have hundreds and hundreds of questions. And for what I recommend to people is just take 10 or 20 and start answering them, like either in your head or write them out, and then have a story that you can actually reference in your work history where you will be able to answer that question. And actually that works really well because again, if you answer, 10 or 20 questions, it gives you a little bit of flavor of what kinds of questions are being asked today. And there's hundreds of questions online. So that's really good. But I love the fact that you used the college resource, center, and that they were able to kill your resume first and then rebuild it from there. So that's excellent. So Brittany, what other things would you say are important let's talk about high school a little bit, because you're obviously way closer to high school than I am now. But what are some things that you would recommend for high school young women in order to either get an internship, whether it's a summer internship in high school, or apply for college and start their college careers?
Look up to other girls that you see are doing what you might want to do, and don't be scared to ask them. Like you said, someone will be there to help you too. And there's other people that are going in your shoes. So those people that you look up to, ask them how they got there. What are they doing? What are the steps that they are taking? Use those resources as well. High school, I know people can be mean, but just don't have it deter you from what you want to do. You have to start somewhere, whether it is, I started babysitting. So even if it's a little job like that, yes, your dreams are probably high. That's not holding you back, but you have to start somewhere. So whether it is nannying or volunteering, do that, because those are where you gain the most experience. I have gained most experience from being a lifeguard, some of those lessons. You have to start at the bottom to get to the top. And it's not easy, but there are people there to guide you, and ask the questions too. Everyone likes to talk about themselves, their experiences.
Absolutely. No, I love all that, especially, again, for those younger high schoolers, like you said, high school it's a tough age these days. You know, it was tough when I was in school. It's even tougher now. So for them to really stay on track, regardless of what's happening to them, and reach for their dreams, I think that's fantastic. And by the way, there is an organization that's called Toastmasters International that any age individual can join, so high schoolers specifically. So it's $57, I think, every 6 months, and they can go and practice speaking. So when they speak, when they actually practice their speaking, and that will help them through college interviews, you know, high school jobs, anything like that. But that's always a resource that I recommend, because it's super cheap and you can go and mess completely up, and all of the members there will support you and they will give you feedback on how to improve every single time. No matter if you're a public speaker or a professional speaker, you will always get feedback. So for those younger listeners out there that are really looking to up their game, Toastmasters International, it's all over the world. There's a Toastmasters near you somewhere. So just a little tip there. So Brittany, I would like to, first of all, thank you for your time, but I want to ask you one final question. Do you have a couple of final recommendations that you have, whether it's college women going into the workforce, or whether it's those millennials that just started in the last few years? So do you have a couple of final recommendations for them?
Yes, my final recommendation is one, be yourself. Don't pretend to be anyone that you're not. I have learned from that as we spoke about age. Don't pretend to be older. Be yourself. Also, you don't need to know everything. If you don't know something, you can say, I don't know, or put it in a different way, saying, I will get back to you. You do not need to know everything and anything, especially just starting. People might trick you off with those questions of trying to get you for your experience as well. But you can always just say, let me get back to you as well. So those would be my main things: is one, be yourself. Two, don't be afraid to speak up as well. And three, you don't have to always know everything, but you probably do know a lot. So remember that you do know a lot, and you can always find the answer to something if that means to go back and say, let me double check on that for you. So those would be my three things for advice for millennials. And then if anyone else wants to take that going forward.
That's awesome. I love that. And I'm actually going to add one extra thing now that I'm thinking about it, because obviously when you're not as experienced, you're bound to maybe make a mistake. And so the one thing that I always told my direct reports in the past, or that I did myself, if I did a mistake, I would be the first one to go to my manager or call my client back and say, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. And if you admit it right away, and instead of like trying to hide that you made a mistake, or like you said, try to pretend that you're superhuman and that you don't make mistakes, it's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths. So for you to have, if you do make a mistake, or when you do make a mistake, just confess, or fess up to it right away and try to fix it. And then more importantly, learn from that mistake, right? Would you agree with that?
I would completely agree with that. Exactly the way you put it. Mistakes happen. Everyone makes mistakes, and you just learn from it from there. And admitting it is a great way to put it as well.
Awesome. Okay, well, so for everybody out there, we are going to have Brittany's contact information in the blog, so that if anybody has any questions for her on how she did it, what she's doing, you can always contact her. But in the meantime, again, Brittany, thank you so much for spending time with me today. This was an awesome conversation, because it's been a very long time since I've been your age. So it's really good to hear from someone that's new to just the workforce in general, and that you have so much sage and wise advice, even at your age, for those younger folks. So thank you again. What a valuable conversation we just had with Brittany. Just to recap her 2 tips. Tip number 1, she said to be yourself. Don't try to be somebody that you're not. Tip number 2 was that you don't have to know everything. It's okay to say, let me get back to you. And then I added tip number 3, which is We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes, but you need to admit that you made a mistake and figure out how to fix it. So go talk to your manager, fess up that you made a mistake, and figure out how to move forward from there. Brittany has a few years in the insurance industry under her belt. She's going to continue to grow and build her self-confidence as time moves on, but I know Brittany is going to do great in her career. If you want to get in contact with Brittany, all of her contact information is going to be on the blog at No Woman Left Behind. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Let these stories of self-encouragement and professional development serve as a guide in navigating through corporate America in the most practical and fulfilling way possible. Do not forget to subscribe to the show at nowomanleftbehind.com for more content like this. Leave a rating and share it with your friends because we want to make sure that no woman is left behind. Until I see you next time, remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.